奶啦奶。都會英點啊？呢個二，呢個二，呢個二，呢個二，呢個二。字啊，石盒啊嘛，係啦，石盒係我哋剛才嗰個白石啦，石盒係我哋剛才嗰個白石啦，石盒係我哋剛。
不過依家約定俗成，都係獨合噶啦。
我覺得我嚟九龍城係好啱嘅決定啊！關於嘢食啊或者中藥嘅字眼啦，好多人都識讀咯。30個字，我覺得我呢個估計係差唔多嘅。50個就真係太誇張啦冇可能會答到咯。拍到，哇！嗱，交俾你啦。
哇，咁勁嘅！我有啲勁喎，佢呢兩行冇晒咁滯咯喎。
但係我話俾你聽，最尾呢行真係有啲渺茫，冇人試過咯，試都冇試。
唔緊要嘅，等我完成埋個任務。Go go go！唔緊要嘅，等我完成埋個任務。Go go go！我想揾啲中學生、高中生係一定會識嘅。
Hello， 我想問咧，你識唔識讀呢啲字啊？
我突然間覺得好尷尬啊！
唔好意思啊，你哋3個咧可唔可以一齊咧玩個小遊戲啊？
飛文，汗流浹背，
哇，好勁啊你！
棺廠，揭子
定鴨字？
係鴨子啊！
呢個應該讀黏。我之前考車嗰時去過呢度。
仲有冇可以撞下？
喂？
呢個就好似係同啲醋有關咁樣，呢個就好似係同啲醋有關咁樣呢個字。
讀個醋字。
係啊，點解你咁勁嘅？
日本睇翻嚟嘅係日本嗰啲醋咧，係真係寫呢個字嘅。
呢個係瑤，呢個係賓。
點解會識呢兩個字？
因為我幫我套劇咁啱有呢兩個字咯。
係咩劇？我諗我都要睇下。
星河燦爛，即係佢嗰個入邊有兩個人個名啱好係呢兩個字。
呢個
先，
呢個手咧
吓？真係㗎？
信心大增係講，而家其實差呢啲啫嘛，我就諗住用呢個人海字上喺街嗰度撞啊！我揾得越多人，中嘅機會率就越高啊！小姐，我俾你睇我嘅戰績先，
好勁喎！係咪你通水㗎？
我冇通水啊，唔叫通水啊！呢個啲魚咧就啱啱喺海嗰度捉上嚟嘅啫喎。
先，真係㗎？
啊，呢個手咧，咁喺咩時候先會好多隻手喺個地上面嘅咧？
吓？
咁樣都唔叫通水。
即係啲人好勁啊，其實唔係我勁，係啲人勁。
呢啲旁門左道咧，呢度已經係極限㗎啦。即係呢堆咧，應該好難再用同一個方法。
咁佢係即係3隻馬啦，咁就係講緊啲馬一齊跑得好快嘅。
很快。
即係講緊啲馬一齊跑得好快嘅，咁會有咩音？你會覺得係好快嘅咧？
鳳
唔係，好快，
鳳
超啊！
熟咯，
標啊！呢個得唔得？呢個正，呢個係正啊嘛？呢個係正字，唔係喎，呢個唔係喎。
有咁多隻羊，咁你就會想食啦，係咪？
沙蘇啊，就未
都唔係啊，都唔係啊。嗱，咁嗱，如果你哇三隻鹿，嗱，咁嗱，如果你哇三隻鹿啊，貼士就係佢係形容詞嚟嘅。
妙啊！哇係啊，咩係關鹿事嘅？
係啦，
係啊，咩係關鹿事嘅？
係啦，
亂啊，花啊，正啊，碌啊，有冇啊？有冇啊？有冇近㗎？
冇。
O K，
呢個係咪女啊？嗱，其實真係差好少噶咋，真係。嗱，你試下作，嗱，你頭先
女啊，
係女啊，好多狐狸喎。
會好嘈咯。畫
Yes。嗱，咁呢度佢有三條毛啦，係咪？咁個動作會係咩？吹啊！
咁阿背咯，阿鼻咯，
你啱咗喎。嗱，呢個咧，呢個有冇咩頭緒？嗱，有邊讀邊嘅話，
嚟。哇！我撞嘅啫喎。點啊點啊？最後點？
差少少喎，我差少少就問到50個啦。
最後我哋揾人讀咗40個字啊！我哋揾人讀咗40個字啊，仲差10個字先夠50個啊！我輸咗啦。
唉，你嗰啲字難唔難啊？唉，你嗰啲字難唔難啊？
難，有詞語記會易記啲咯。
中唔中意中文？
我中意啊，
我都好中意啊！我中意18篇範文。我中意18篇範文。
我覺得呢啲咁冷門，如果你話唔識嘅話，係可能都合理嘅。
日常生活中其實有好多鋪頭都係用呢啲字嘅。
係咪有個字係3個魚咁樣？好似都有見過。
係啊。
可能嗰啲餐廳特別嗰啲名咁樣，但係正常可能句子。
嗰啲好少會見到呢啲字。
但係一個用緊一個中文字嘅一個人，當我理解得越多，或者我同人哋 share 得越多嘅時候，或者我同人哋 share 得越多嘅時候，至少有某啲人可以保留住某一啲文化，可以繼續。你 share 得越多嘅時候，至少有某啲人可以保留住某一啲文化，可以繼續去承傳落去啦，咁講啦。可以繼續去承傳落去啦，咁講啦。
你只要日常留意多啲招牌，睇多啲字，睇多啲街景，香港嘅街景咁，睇多啲街景，香港嘅街景咁，你就可以見到，其實呢啲字喺你日常生活中已經出現過咯。
咁所以到最後都係我個 best 贏咗喎，咁點啊？冇啊，罰你翻去 search 晒啲字，罰抄咯。
我就翻去查晒字典，查唔到，咁俾大家。有冇？
年达到了14亿这么多。
那说完了中国是如何一步步成为世界第一人口大国之后呢，下面我们就要来聊一下我们今天的主要的话题，也就是中国人口的出生率为什么会下降。
那第一个背景因素呢，是与工业的发展和医疗条件的提升有关。在1978年与工业的发展和医疗条件的提升有关。在1978年改革开放之后，中国的工业就得到了急速的发展。20世纪末起呢，中国就逐渐从农业经济为主转变为工业经济为主。所以有大量来自农村的年轻人，他们会涌向城市，在工厂工作。而且农业现代化也意味着在机械的帮助下，一个农民家庭不需要大量的劳动力来进行农业生产。所以呢，乡村地区的人们不再像以前那样需要多生一些生产。多生一些孩子来补充家里的人力。而且随着医疗条件的提升，婴儿的死亡率也是在大幅的下降。人们也就不需要靠多生孩子来提高就是后代的存活率。所以第3次婴儿潮之后呢，全国的人口出生率就已经开始慢慢的下降了。
所以说其实如果说没有这个一胎政策，那个人口的出生率也不会像50-60年代那么迅猛的，对吧？像你刚刚讲的这个人口的出生率也不会像50-60年代那么迅猛的。
Hey Len, how's it going? Appreciate you adapting to my time, but good evening to you.
对吧？像你刚刚讲的这个农业经济，然后会像50-60年代那么迅猛的，对吧？像你刚刚讲的这个农业经济，然后转为工业经济，这个就是一个自然而然的会生孩子的数量就会下降这么一个趋势。
对，它在很多国家都能够看到类似的一个发展趋势，就是站在人类的人口发展的一个长河之中来看的话。那第二个人口出生率下降的原因呢，是与计划生育政策有关的。中国是在1971年开始推行计划生育政策，有意来减缓人口快速的增长。独生只推行计划生育政策，有意来减缓人。
Hey man, I challenge you to get those links in 300 minimum daily.
人口快速的增长。开始推行计划生育政策，有意来减缓人口快速的增长。独生子女政策呢，是在1982年被确定为基本国策，规定每个家庭就只能生一个孩子。与此同时呢，生殖健康和避孕的相关知识与途径在全国也是被开始得到推广和普及。而且很多女性也进行了结扎手术，当时堕胎也是合法的。所以说人们是有多种方法和途径来实现避孕和安全流产的。这也就让国家对人口的增长进行控制变得更加可行。
对的，我记得就是令我印象比较深刻的一幕，就是我妈在生完我弟之后嘛，她就被
Adds up to you, but at least 100, right? That's like a good goal.
带去做这个结扎手术。 然后他回来的时候，他就被带去做这个结扎手术。然后他回来的时候，我当时才5岁的样子吧，然后我就看到他躺在一张那种就是很硬的竹子做的床上面，从一辆三轮车就是很硬的竹子做的床上面，从一辆三轮车上面抬下来。到现在我都清楚的记得那一幕。我妈还跟我讲过，就是她在怀上我弟的时候啊，那会儿不是会有专门的人员在大街上去抓那种怀孕的女性，对，看他们是不是合法的还是违法的。然后当时我妈就出门说要去坐车坐到镇上去买东西嘛，然后就被人抓到了。最后幸亏是我妈当时已经办了这个准生证，就是因为我们俩相差了岁数已经。
Because my brains, okay, sometimes the brain gets very curious because you will feel uncomfortable when you see a certain word and it's not like full clarity. So if it's like a certain word that's like very ticking off, you go to Google Translate and then that feeling of uncomfortable go away, or whatever you call it, the itch, it'll just disappear and you go back to like zero stress. Because when you stress when you see a certain word, it means that your brain completely does not know what that word is. So I did to satisfy the brain's curiosity. I guess that's like a topic I haven't mentioned is satisfying the brain's curiosity, meaning when meaning unknown words. So it's pretty important to satisfy the brain needs whenever it sees a word, doesn't completely understand, even if you have like all the translation here, but hyper focus on the word, yeah. Because when you think of a word, right? If you were to talk to yourself, you walk around just thinking in Chinese. If, for example, you say, I want to go to bus, but you don't know what the word bus is in Mandarin. So you don't have the translation and you get very annoyed. You're so curious about it. So you have to fulfill the curiosity. So that's why I always say, like, bring a phone with you and Google Translate so that when you finally get the translation, your brain feels satisfied and that pretty much take learning. Because it's technically using that as survival. It's a survival instinct. And because of that, you are able to use it more likely in a situation in real time because it's considered survival. Like you put yourself, it's been put in a bubble of survival words, and now it's officially in there once you satisfy the needs of your brain. Ironically, you don't get to decide what is considered a word of survival. Only your brain can determine its value.
合了他们的要求，就没有被打掉。如果说没有这个证的话，估计我弟就会被流掉。还有一个比较有意思的点，我记得我妈跟我讲的。
Welcome back, Cummings Ska 9670. Yeah, you're just at the part where I'm just doing my listening portion of the day. I do all listening in the beginning, so this might be a little boring. So feel free to mute me. Any questions, just feel free to type it. Otherwise, just more of a study partner session.
他说这些抓那种违法怀孕的人很专业的，因为有一些怀孕的人他会试图去掩盖她怀孕的痕迹嘛，比如说穿宽松的衣服。因为有一些怀孕的人他会试图去掩盖她怀孕的痕迹嘛，比如说穿宽松的衣服呀。
是的，是的。
但是他们就是能够一眼就可以
看出来吗？
对，你知道他们怎么看的吗？就是比如说正常没有怀孕的女性，她的胸部是比较立挺的嘛。然后他们就专门看那种怀了孕的女性，她的那个胸部稍微会有一点大或者是下垂，他们就看这些，我看到你胸部下垂，你可能就是有可能是怀孕的。
哇，真的没有想到会有这样的一个技巧，而且还在实践中这样的使用。
对。
那接下来我们可以说一下第3个相关的因素，这是关于养孩子的压力方面的。在中国逐步富裕起来之后呢，人们开始更加注重个人的生活质量和家庭的优生优育，而且从个人到国家，个人的生活质量和家庭的优生优育，而且从个人到国家，教育都是被更加的重视起来的。那随着生育和教育都是被更加的重视起来的。那随着生育和养育孩子成本的不断的提升，很多城市家庭他们会主动的选择只生一个孩子，因为这样。
sau cái cột mốc đấy xong thì cũng không ai nói đến nữa. Sau cái cột mốc đấy xong thì cũng không ai nói đến nữa. Giống như mọi câu chuyện cổ tích thì khi mà hoàng tử với công chúa gặp nhau là giống như mọi câu chuyện cổ tích thì khi mà hoàng tử với công chúa gặp nhau là giống như mọi câu chuyện cổ tích thì khi mà hoàng
Yeah, that's why I mentioned that when your brain gets really burned out, go take a 12 to 15 minute nap, power nap it. That'll reset your brain back to zero.
Giống như mọi câu chuyện cổ tích thì khi mà hoàng tử với công chúa gặp nhau, giống như mọi câu chuyện cổ tích thì khi mà hoàng tử với công chúa gặp nhau là thế là xong. Không ai nói là hôn nhân của họ có hạnh phúc hay không, họ có ly dị sau đấy không, đúng không? Với tư cách là một người phụ nữ bước sang tuổi trung niên, chị hôm nay cũng vừa gặp người bạn và nói sang tuổi trung niên, chị hôm nay cũng vừa gặp người bạn và nói là tất cả mọi người đều nói rằng là mình hãy có chồng đi và có con đi. Còn sau khi có chồng có con xong thì không ai hề nói với mình là cái cuộc sống của mình nó tiếp diễn như thế nào. Có rất là các câu chuyện không ai hề nói với mình là cái cuộc sống của mình nó tiếp diễn như thế nào. Có rất là các câu chuyện chỉ kể một nửa thôi, nhưng mà chính vì thế nên cái hình có rất là các câu chuyện chỉ kể một nửa thôi, nhưng mà chính vì thế nên cái hình ảnh mà cái sự thất bại á, nó được cất đi. Nó tự mọi người biết thôi. Còn chỉ đạt được cái độ ổn định đã là thành còn chỉ đạt được cái độ ổn định đã là thành công. Chị tò mò là bây giờ tất cả chúng ta đều sống trên một sân khấu 360 độ. Không có phần nào của chúng ta là trở thành góc khuất hết. Thậm chí góc khuất đấy không có phần nào của chúng ta là trở thành góc khuất hết. Không có phần nào của chúng ta là trở thành góc khuất hết. Thậm chí góc khuất đấy là góc rất là tuyệt vời để làm content, đúng không? Thì nếu ai cũng muốn thoát ra khỏi việc là mình đừng là thì nếu ai cũng muốn thoát ra khỏi việc là mình đừng là nobody mà hãy là somebody. Nó có thậm chí nó sẽ thể hiện nhiều sự thất bại hơn không? Nó có thậm chí nó sẽ thể hiện nhiều sự thất bại hơn không?
Em đồng ý. Quan trọng là mình định nghĩa thế nào là thành công và mình cũng định nghĩa thế nào là thất bại nữa. Em nghĩ như vậy. Thời gian vừa rồi em làm 1 năm ở một môi trường corporate và em làm creative manager. Em quản một team gồm 10 bạn. Khi mà em ngừng vị trí đó, ở một mặt nào đó mình nhìn thấy là mình thất bại. Mình thất bại bởi vì là tại vì đối với định nghĩa của nhiều người về thành công thì bạn làm sếp mà bạn làm chưa đến được 2 năm nữa mà bạn đã rời vị trí đó rồi. 2 năm nữa mà bạn đã rời vị trí đó rồi. Và như vậy thì cũng là một dạng thất bại, bởi vì nó không thể hiện được bạn là một người đủ sâu. Nó không thể hiện được bạn là một người đủ sâu. Còn em thì thấy là mình thành công bởi vì khi mà mình nhìn lại một vài cái dự án của mình, mình cảm thấy mình tự hào về nó. Nên là cuối cùng thì em thấy là nó cũng là câu chuyện bộ lông cù vàng á. Quan trọng nhất là không phải là nó cũng là câu chuyện bộ lông cù vàng á. Quan trọng nhất là nó cũng là câu chuyện bộ lông cù vàng á. Quan trọng nhất là không phải là bộ lông cù mà chính là cái hành trình mình đi qua. Bộ lông cù mà chính là cái hành trình mình đi qua. Mình làm được gì? Em thì trải qua nhiều cái thất bại, em cũng có cảm giác giống như là thất bại đó có thể là do tự mình chuốc lấy nó, nhưng mà cũng có thể là thất bại đó có thể là do tự mình chuốc lấy nó, nhưng mà cũng có thể là đôi khi là cái life happens đó chị, mình cũng không biết vì sao. Ví dụ như là hồi em làm em có được trải nghiệm làm nhạc sĩ. em tham gia một chương trình đó là có 25 bạn, ngoài em ra có 24 bạn khác. Và khi mà em kết thúc chương trình đó rồi thì em nhìn lại thì tất cả 24 bạn kia đều đang là nhạc sĩ và em thì đang làm marketing. Em không biết vì sao. Đôi khi em không biết vì sao là mình lại tham gia chương trình đó và vì sao bây giờ mình lại không đi con đường giống các bạn kia. Em vẫn luôn tự hào vì em đã có một thời gian em được sống trong âm nhạc cùng với những bạn. Luôn tự hào vì em đã có một thời gian em được sống trong âm nhạc cùng với những bạn mà lúc đó các bạn chưa nổi như bây giờ. Và em đã được ngồi với các bạn, được discuss, được bàn luận về âm nhạc của các bạn nổi như bây giờ. Tự hào vì em đã có một thời gian em được sống trong âm nhạc cùng với những bạn mà lúc đó các bạn chưa nổi như bây giờ. Và em đã được ngồi với các bạn, được discuss, được bàn luận về âm nhạc của các bạn. Em tự hào là em đã từng đứng chung một cái bảng để đấu với Hạ An Huy và Bùi Trường Linh. Đứng chung một cái bảng để đấu với Hạ An Huy và Bùi Trường Linh. Và em tự hào là em là cái người mà chương trình hay, tại vì chương trình đó là cái format của nó là pitching bài hát để bán bài hát cho những người đang ngồi ở dưới và sẽ mua bài hát của mình. Thì xong chương trình đó thì bên ở dưới và sẽ mua bài hát của mình. Thì xong chương trình đó thì bên ekip sản xuất bảo là Lucas là người nhận được nhiều tiền nhất trong chương trình. Bảo là Lucas là người nhận được nhiều tiền nhất trong chương trình. Nhận được nhiều, cái số tiền mà nhận được nhiều nhất là tiền gọi là cash luôn đó chị. Thì là tức là có nghĩa là mình thấy là 4 vòng mình đều bán thành công bài. Thì là tức là có nghĩa là mình thấy là 4 vòng mình đều bán thành công bài hát của mình. Và nói gì thì nói, bây giờ mọi người định nghĩa, nếu mọi người định nghĩa bài hát đó là bài hát phải viral và người ta phải biết đến thì đó là thành công, thì coi như là em là thất bại. Nhưng nếu mọi người định nghĩa là ok, bán được bài hát đã là thành công rồi thì ok là mình thành công. Nên là nói về thất bại thì cũng có nhiều câu chuyện về thất bại lắm. Một câu chuyện lui về quá khứ một chút nữa chị Minh, là hồi cấp 3 của em học một trường chuyên Lê Hồng Phong. Thì dân Lê Hồng Phong thì mọi người hay bảo là phải giỏi đều, nhưng mà từ hồi cấp 3 là em đã là một đứa phản kháng lại cái ý niệm về giỏi đều rồi. Em học lệch cực kỳ, em học và em không học toán được, em không thể nào nuốt nổi môn toán. Học lệch cực kỳ, em học và em không học toán được, em không thể nào nuốt nổi môn toán. Em bị học sinh trung bình vì môn toán, bởi vì toán của em điểm nó quá là toán. Em bị học sinh trung bình vì môn toán, bởi vì toán của em điểm nó quá là thấp. Nhưng mà lúc đó thì theo một cái quy định rất là lạ của các trường.
Do you know Jeremiah's language ideas? Curious how would rate his Vietnamese. Oh shoot, that guy is way better than me, I'm sure. Like pronunciation wise, he probably studied way harder than I just had maybe the advantage that I just live in the Vietnamese household. But I think he put in a lot more work than I did. Yeah, this guy's like a whole different level. He's probably I think he's way better than me. I'm sure. I'm not really here to compare because he trained all of his speaking, his listening, but I only train on the listening because I think the priority is listening because I know most people try to struggle how to listen faster. So I guess you could consider me the guy who try to learn and focus how to listen, improve the listening comprehension a lot faster. Speaking, I don't really care about my speaking because it seems like they understand me and they don't sometimes give you the weird look. then that means I'm doing pretty good. It just depends how you just adjust your speaking more and more.
Thường là một bạn mà bị học sinh trung bình thì sẽ phải đánh giá lại hành.
Because like people are gonna judge based on how perfect you speak, but then you can always counter with, okay, but do they understand me? If they understand me without giving me a word look, I think I'm doing pretty decent. Because perfection is pretty hard. Speaking like a native speaker, like honestly, wish you speak one language perfectly, like you sound perfectly native, or you just have multiple languages, but you understand most of them, and you can have conversation with like decent accent, or like they don't foreign accent. It's super obvious you're foreign because it's technically nothing wrong with sounding foreign.
Kiểm của bạn đó. Bởi vì nếu như mà bạn học sinh trung bình nghĩa là bạn không siêng học, mà không siêng học. Học là một đức tính không tốt, phải bị hạ một bậc hạnh kiểm. Thì lúc đó là em được đưa ra để xét duyệt hạnh kiểm của em. Đó là em được đưa ra để xét duyệt hạnh kiểm của em.
Honestly, I can learn a lot from Jeremiah for sure. Even on my own languages, like Vietnamese, sure. Yeah, like that guy. I think I heard his Vietnamese. He speaks way better than me. Yeah, no one's definitely gonna give him a weird look. They're just gonna be surprised he can speak it for sure. For me, they expect me to actually speak it. You gotta look so Asian, but they don't seem to really think much because they just understand me.
Vencer de una manera argumental, de una manera pragmática, pero no por autoritas, no por liderazgo. Sí, argumental, de una manera pragmática, pero no por autoritas, no por liderazgo. Si queremos convencer a una persona, influir en una persona, como líderes tenemos que ir a través de la confianza siempre. Tenemos que ir a través de la confianza siempre.
¿Cómo aceleramos esa confianza? ¿Hay aceleradores? ¿Cómo aceleramos esa confianza? ¿Hay aceleradores de confianza?
A ver, sí, podríamos, lo hemos hablado un poquito antes, ¿no? Haciendo un preperfilado de las personas, viendo cómo son las personas, lo que puedo yo hacer es utilizar, por ejemplo, los sesgos cognitivos como el sesgo de reciprocidad o el sesgo de grupo.
I don't know. I actually got some good news. So on this Saturday, I'm actually gonna have an interview with Mike learning Japanese. I don't know if you know Mike learning Japanese. First, I'm gonna have like a discussion with Mike learns Japanese. But then I realized that yesterday this guy's actually very huge. If you know Bijou Mike, I was so shocked when I see this number. Like, wait a second, this guy is famous, and he actually wants to interview me. Okay, buddy, but he's actually a Link user. That's why. So this Saturday I'm gonna be talking with him. So that's gonna be interesting. I don't know if I can expose the direct chat, but yeah, it's like it's for real though. So I think let's see. It's like asking how does he want to do it. So it's gonna be around the 5th or 6th, but we chose the 6th at 1 p.m. So for you, it might be 10 p.m. Yeah, somewhat. I'm not sure it's a huge achievement, but it depends. Because my problem is I'm afraid I'm going to say something really awkward, or my mic sucks, just like the Preply class. So I had to I got a bunch of books and stacked the mic on top of it, and I just have to lean in closer every time I talk to make sure my points are going through. Because I don't know how my mic is when I'm talking to you guys. Because every time I talk, I lean in a little bit to make it more clear.
¿Para qué?
It'll be both. To be honest, I bet you that when we had the interview, I don't think he's gonna put me on his channel just because like the quality of my camera and my mic wouldn't be satisfying enough to his standards. Maybe. Probably mine for sure, because it'll be fun just talking with someone. No one really has discussions other than like Matt vs. Japan and all certain language channels. Like I imagine talking to another language lawyer for fun.
Para generar el grupo contigo de la manera que sea, ¿no? Dependiendo de dónde tú te muevas, yo voy a intentar.
But I guess it's like one step closer to like getting more known, I guess. I'm gonna find you Kazu language or put me on Steve Kaufman's channel. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Moverme en algún grupo dentro de las posibles coincidencias, optimizarlo, darle mucho foco para que automáticamente yo ya tenga más confianza contigo, tú tengas más confianza conmigo. ¿No? Es una manera de empezar a ganar confianza. Y sobre todo, ver cuáles son tus dolores, cuáles son tus incertidumbres y cuáles son tus miedos. Si yo puedo solucionar alguno de ellos, es muy probable que me veas como una persona pues que te acaba de hacer un favor muy enorme, te acaba de generar una deuda emocional, ¿no? Aquí vamos a hablar de otro sesgo, el sesgo de reciprocidad, ¿no? Si yo soy capaz de darte algo bueno, de generarte algo muy positivo, de, no sé, tengas un problema y te lo medio soluciono, te puedo dar un gran consejo, incluso me puedo abrir a nivel emocional, hago que tu cerebro se quede en deuda conmigo.
O el de grupo.
O el de grupo.
Es, no puedo resolver tu miedo, pero tengo el mismo miedo.
Exactamente, exactamente. Cualquier cosa que nos genere un grupo entre los dos, pero cualquier cosa es cualquier cosa. O si yo te genero este sesgo de reciprocidad, hay muchos más sesgos.
Yeah, he gave me a comment in one of my $10,000 video, but he thought it wasn't a clear enough answer, so he wants to hear in person. Even in person, God, I don't know how am I supposed to explain anything that I do. Technically, I had like a different idea. I think this could be like a prequel, so I could say that I use Link, for example, because he's gonna ask about Japanese. So the Japanese approach is different from Mandarin. For example, if you see a form and you read it and you kind of understand, because you have the kanji and then you have a bunch of like katakana, hiragana at the back of it. I pretty much just put that to known, is because now you officially grab this known word and put into a bubble of potential listening, because when the moment you listen and read like what I'm doing, this is an actual area of this is the limit of what I can listen and speak. So basically, like Link, it's just like a wide broad, but that doesn't mean that's actually your full knowledge. The real knowledge is now you have to transfer that into another area I call it like the listening bubble. Sorry, the survival bubble. And this area means that whatever you listen and you put transcript, this is like the actual stuff you will hear and that your brain will filter, that we have real life conversation. If these words do not, when the native speaker talks and it does not fall within this survival bubble, then you did not hear the words that you want. That means you had to broaden the spectrum. So the good news is we actually read and listen. This is actually like real life listening that an actual person would say. So you officially filtered even further what the link system does to know what can actually happen in real life conversations. Whose channel? You can look up Mike Learns Japanese, but if you want to know who he really is, I just found out this guy's famous as heck. Bijou Mike. He's like the PewDiePie of gaming. So this guy's 3.77 million. I was like, wow, okay, this guy's like mega huge. Like, look at all these views. And I'm casually just having a conversation with this dude. I don't know how casual, because we asked him, how long do you want the conversation to be? And then he said, maybe like 1 hour. I don't want to take up your time. And I said, I don't want to take up your time. You're the celebrity here. Exactly. So Bijou Mike. I didn't know his exist. I didn't know he was actually Bijou Mike, the famous guy, until yesterday.
Podríamos utilizar cada uno de ellos, incluso.
But if you knew through him, you definitely know. I did not know Bijou Mike exactly. So he's technically that was his second channel. The Mike Learns Japanese. That's a second channel.
Dentro de cada uno de ellos puede haber varias opciones para hacer que nos vayamos acercando más y más. Mira, hay una cosa que yo vengo observando desde hace un tiempo ahora y es lo que hablaba antes de la necesidad. El mostrar a una persona que no te necesito, tío. O sea, cuando tú vas con ese rol, eres mucho más apetecible a los demás. Porque si yo te demostrate que yo no te necesito, Adrián, no te necesito.
¿Qué?
Demás. Porque si yo te demostrate que yo no te necesito, Adrián, no te necesito.
That filter thing you just mentioned, is that from Krashen's work? I actually don't know. I actually never read his papers. I only know I only seen all of his typical videos of, oh, this is my cough. The years. I only see those videos and his interviews. He never mentions anything about like survival, but technically this could be whatever he says. But is that like the filter? The filter? No, that's about speaking. If you understand the message, then you automatically acquisition it. Sure. Yeah, that's just one way. But I don't know if he mentions anything, because whatever I say is just custom made, because someone's gonna call me out on it. But when you think about what I say and you put it into your your situation, you might think, "Wait, this guy makes sense. This is more of a survival word," because whatever I hear in these videos might actually happen in real life compared to just learning it through Link, because Link is pretty much random. You're on your own. You figure out which is right. Yeah, like there's filters for like speaking, because your brain filters because grammar and then you speak, right? But when you actually listen, your brain can do another area of filtering so that it's put in an area of, this is the actual stuff I'm actually going to need when I'm actually listening to someone else.
Pero tío, comemos juntos. ¿Tú qué percibes? Que no tengo interés en ti, pero me gusta estar contigo. Es muy diferente. Tú ya percibes que yo estoy contigo porque me gusta, no porque me interese. Esa percepción es la que hace que tú confíes en mí.
Y ahí viene la pregunta. ¿Cómo desciframos si una persona es genuina o no?
Es que si es buena no lo vas a descifrar, tío. Si es buena, no lo vas a descifrar. Además,
pero el cuerpo no miente. O...
Claro, no miente o sí miente. Mira, es que es mucho más delicado. Claro, porque ya no hablamos de lo que es el análisis de la otra persona, sino de cómo me hace sentir a mí. Imagínate, yo, Juanma, experto en comunicación no verbal, negociación y tal. Tú llegas y me conoces y me empiezas a dar perlitas y me empiezas a poner en mi zona de confort. ¿Conoces? Y me empiezas a dar perlitas y me empiezas a poner en mi zona de confort y hablando de lo que a mí me gusta y te ponen la camiseta de Metallica y no sé qué. Mi cerebro...
Información física, que te lo he dicho por...
No sé qué. Mi cerebro...
Información física, que te lo he dicho por pura humanidad y porque te admiro por eso, pero
sí.
Y vi la foto ayer, pero podrías pensar que es manipulación. Que
no, eso es sesgo de reciprocidad. Me has hecho, joder, tío, me has tocado algo, para mí eso, joder, tío, me has tocado algo, para mí eso es un orgullo, ¿no?
Yo sé lo que cuesta,
claro.
Es una barbaridad.
¿Qué es lo que haces? Que tú sitúas a mi cerebro dentro de mi zona de confort. Entonces, ¿qué es más probable? Que mi cerebro se quede, mi comportamiento, ¿vale? O sea, que me entienda todo el mundo. Mi mentalidad, mi manera de actuar en este momento esté dentro de la zona de confort o que salga fuera. Mi manera de actuar en este momento esté dentro de la zona de confort o que salga fuera. Me voy a quedar dentro de mi zona de confort. Además, ya sabemos que el cerebro es muy perezoso, que no quiere gastar energía, me voy a quedar aquí. El cerebro es muy perezoso, que no quiere gastar energía, me voy a quedar aquí, ¿vale? Como me quedo aquí, si tú me sabes situar aquí, yo no voy a ver lo que hay a los otros extremos. Y tú me vas a llevar por el camino que a ti te dé la gana. El cuerpo no miente ya. Pues que a lo mejor mi cerebro no quiere ver lo que ocurre, porque estoy a gustito, estoy calentito. ¿Entiendes esto?
Y luego hay el de confirmación, que es, vale, yo te he dado una primera impresión, tu cerebro, una buena impresión positiva, tu cerebro va a decir, no, Adrián no me manipula, voy a buscar todo lo que sea necesario para confirmar que Adrián es...
Eso es. Y lo que veo que puede ser, digo, casualidad. Entonces, eso es. Y lo que veo que puede ser, digo, casualidad. Entonces, la información que no me conviene, que me saca de mi zona de confort, información que no me conviene, que me saca de mi zona de confort, mi cerebro la echa, pero la echa y no me doy cuenta.
I think effective filter hypothesis, that's for speaking. I think that's for speaking. Oh, okay. That's just pretty much the learner's emotional state acts as a visible psychological barrier. In other words, I think that's the stress thing, isn't it? Motivation, self-confidence, anxiety. Okay, that's feelings. But we're talking about like actual mental state. Actually, that's the same exact concept. You can't even see or touch it, so it's still emotional.
O sea, yo no soy consciente de que mi cerebro la ha hecha. O sea, es brutal, ¿no? La manera que se puede utilizar todo esto para llevarte a quien quieras. Es que a quien utilizar todo esto para llevarte a quien quieras. Es que a quien quieras. Y yo, insisto, todos los que nos denominamos especialistas en comunicación, en lo que sea, no la cuelan, porque si tienen la habilidad de decirnos lo que queremos escuchar, hablar de los temas que nos gustan, y como digo yo, sentirnos calentitos, y como hagas sentir calentito, acaba diciendo, ya me la he liado otra vez. O sea que no estamos libres de esto, ni muchísimo menos.
Hay una empresa que tú y yo conocemos.
Pela língua. Então, assim, ah, não, porque vai destruir a língua, porque é um absurdo. Gente, mas a língua, se o medo é de que a língua mude, ela está sendo destruída o tempo. Gente, mas a língua, se o medo é de que a língua mude, ela está sendo destruída o tempo inteiro. Cadê a campanha pelo uso do voz?
Não é?
O voz está aí abandonado. Por que não tem ninguém fazendo campanha para que ele seja retomado fora do contexto religioso, que eu acho que é o único lugar que o voz ainda existe? Religioso, que eu acho que é o único lugar que o voz ainda existe.
O tu, né? Pô, porque todo mundo fala tu.
O tu, que é muito regional.
É.
E ainda tem a região que fala muito regional. E ainda tem a região que fala tu, mas não conjuga o verbo como segunda pessoa. Então, se fosse de fato.
I think it's video. I actually asked if he wanted to be live stream, but he didn't respond to it. So I think it'd be more comfortable if we just have a video and then edit it. Like he might want it like edit, but maybe I asked him, can I live stream because it'll be raw for me. I think it'll be more natural, but I don't think he has to protect his image. Maybe that's a thing. His image. Maybe he discovered my channel and he's acting a completely different manner. I'm not sure how much that'll affect him. So I need to ask him first.
Uma preocupação linguística, a gente não teria 25 projetos de leis, mas 25.000.
Because ironically, he says that I'm the expert in this case, so he's going to be more curious about like whatever I do. I said like, oh, I still want to talk to him about like certain stuff, right? I think I had like a few questions prepared. He actually had questions prepared as well, but I think mine so far I had was, what's your philosophy? If you had to reset from 0, what will he do? And what are your thoughts on comprehensible input? How many percent? Most of these already been answered, but I don't answer the philosophy other than Steve Kaufman.
Porque tem muitas questões relacionadas à língua que estão aí correndo risco de virar uma coisa ou outra. É que a questão aí é outra, né? O incômodo está em outro lugar. Agora, ninguém precisa do meu aval, lógico, mas como outro lugar. Agora, ninguém precisa do meu aval, lógico, mas como mais do que como professora. Acho que às vezes os professores tendem a ser muito conservadores. Mas como estudiosa da língua, eu diria para ninguém temer a linguagem neutra e para ninguém se sentir obrigado a usá-la, porque não é obrigatório.
Yeah, I was actually going to suggest you can think of any questions I can ask the dude. I can probably do this. Hey everyone. Got some interesting news this Saturday at 6 Pacific. I'll be having an interview with I don't even know how to describe it. It's kind of messy.
Por falar em língua e mudança, quero fazer aqui um adendo, conversar para os nossos amigos portugueses, que eles estão passando por um fenômeno muito diferente agora, né? Que é a questão dos brasileirismos incorporados à língua portuguesa, né? Isso é uma questão que eu acho que já não é nova, tá? Então a gente acha que muita gente acha que o mundo começou ontem, né?
Sim,
mas isso é uma questão que o pessoal de Portugal já reclama desde...
Assim. I'm not sure how crazy it is that it's going to be. Okay, everyone, got some interesting news. This Saturday, 1 p.m. Pacific, I'll be having an interview with Mike Learns Japanese, who is formerly known as Bijou Mike. Trying to think of. Okay, man. That was fast.
Desde a década de 70, com a chegada das novelas a Portugal, o fenômeno das novelas brasileiras faz muito sucesso. Sei que o Clone fez muito sucesso. Se eu não me engano, Pagadora de Promessas fez muito sucesso em Portugal também. Se eu não me engano, posso estar enganado, mas a gente Rock Santeiro. Então a gente tem novelas que vão a Portugal, passam em canais de televisão grande de Portugal. Só que agora a gente tem um fenômeno muito grande que é a internet, né? E os influenciadores. Tem um fenômeno muito grande que é a internet, né? E os influenciadores digitais. E a gente viu uma matéria, que pra mim é uma matéria maravilhosa, assim, a gente vai imprimir isso daí, botar num quadro, que era uma matéria que falava, assim, a gente vai imprimir isso daí, botar num quadro, que era uma matéria que falava sobre como a influência do Lucas Neto, de todos nós, brasileirinhos, bem esse, estava fazendo com que crianças portuguesas estivessem falando mais palavras ou com sotaque brasileiro, e o mais triste, com sotaque, estivessem falando mais palavras ou com sotaque brasileiro.
Yeah, so it's not really going to be a live stream, I believe, but one moment. It's got more brain food. Yeah. It is breakfast here, so I gotta eat. Nice to have family that when talk gives some food. I guess you can do all discussions from here. I only have to stay at the moment. Or you just watch some more language videos. I'll try to be the thing is, I don't know if it's okay with me live streaming it because I asked him, he didn't reply, but I think he's definitely more into editing it first and then posting it just for. I don't even know if he's gonna post me because I could probably say something stupid like I don't think I want to post this guy because he's saying some weird stuff, but maybe. I wouldn't blame him though. If I could get the guy's consent, sure. I still need to figure out how to even do any of it, like recording it live on a different platform that has video. But I'll figure it out. I started using something called OBS. This isn't OBS. This is just straight up webcam from YouTube Live. Because most of the time I'm just a casual dude, but I have no idea what I'm doing. Okay. For mic interview, you get to start over from zero. What would your exact look like? To see comparison to your answer, which you recently made a video about. Oh. The answer I did, or actually, I kind of want to watch Seapold. Seapold actually followed me too, which I'm surprised. I'm trying to find a map for Japan. I don't know if you guys even know what Seapold is. He just technically he used to be like a very active language learner as well. He's learning Japanese because Mike mentioned this guy too in the same video. No. I'm just gonna be listening to the discussion of it. I haven't watched this at all, but
material. Example, the things we talk to children about, like eat your dinner and it's time for bed, will actually very rarely be used in any input material, except for maybe kids' books. But even among adults, it makes up like 20% of the things we say. Me, for example, I am much more fluent in Swedish talking about my exercise routine than I am in giving basic instructions.
Yeah, well, so I basically have two different lines of thought with regards to this. So first of all, there are certain things that are very disadvantageous about trying to learn a language outside of that country. And that is that you can't actually physically experience many different types of everyday situations. Like maybe you're never in a certain situation where you get to see a mom say like it's time for bed to her children. And so in a way, this might not be that problematic because if you're never in a situation where you're actually having to tell a kid like, okay, it's time for bed right now, then maybe you don't need to know how to say that, right? So in a way, it's like if there's anything you need to be able to say, then you're probably that means that you're going to be immersing, that you're going to be in a situation where that type of thing is being said, and then therefore you can acquire it from being in that situation. And so in a way, it's like if it never comes up in your immersion, then there's almost a certain aspect where it's like by definition, maybe you don't need to know that because it means you're not engaging in a domain of that language where that thing is relevant. And another line of thought.
I mean, your videos, how I would learn Mandarin, I have to start over, which is on Mandarin, but maybe. Oh no, it can be for all languages. Okay, sadly, all languages have to be approached a different way, which is kind of a pain in the butt. Like Japanese, Korean, and Chinese, those are like titans. Like the three, I call it the Trinity Force, the three languages. Actually, what? I don't even know what a Trinity Force looks like. Trinity Force. Like mythology. Okay, not League of Legends. I actually thought about this from League of Legends, like the game. Is there a real term of a Trinity Force in mythology or something like that? Is this real? Sure. Okay, maybe it's real. Yeah, like I'll put this like Chinese, Korean, Japanese, the three holy grails, and then just in the middle it'll be like Arabic. Yeah, Arabic's like honestly, I think Arabic might be the hardest of the all, but they still put it categorized as easier than Mandarin and all that. Like, oh wow, I don't know how they think that. Maybe the only advantage that there's an alphabet, somewhat. The big differences between the three languages and Zelda, I would put Mandarin, Korean, and Japanese. Okay, one side Mandarin, the other side Japanese Korean, based on grammar. Because beyond grammar, it's really is just can you learn the vocab? Learning the vocab for all languages is about similar. Korean might be easier. Japanese is like in the middle. Mandarin is the hardest. Mandarin has the highest entry point. Like it's hard to get into. Korea is like the easiest to get into, and Japanese is like in the middle because it has both katakana, hiragana. It's like the T's, like, oh, this is the T's. Like I'm gonna get you in the language, and the moment you realize, bam, kanji, nah, you're stuck with me forever. Either that or you give up. But I believe that Japanese and Korean like in one category because grammar. Because in the end, grammar is the thing that holds you back the most, no matter what you think of. Because if your grammar is backwards, because your entire mindset relies on the grammar system. Vocab, sure. That's like the vocab might sound hard, but actually the grammar is actually the most annoying. Technically, do you study grammar? You could. I probably should be studying grammar. I'm doing it in a way that I put words together and hopefully to make me like a child playing build the blocks, right? Yes, blocks, put the blocks together and all of a sudden becomes a castle. But when I build blocks, it's like an ugly castle. It's so disoriented, it can probably just fall off the cliff right away. Like it's so messy. But start with baby steps, right? And then just gradually add one word at a time. Yeah. You can even do 3-word sentences because you need subject, verb, object, right? As long as you have those three, that's all that matters. Yeah, I also think vocab acquisition is actually the easiest, but tend to be the most. No, I take that back. Vocab is the thing that slows people the most, slow down people the most. But the actual real challenge is the grammar. Speaking, okay, speaking will eventually be a problem too because if you don't have the sentence structured in your head, because for Mandarin you can probably speak right away because it has so much similarity to English. Like I eat apple, 我吃苹果. Like that's so straightforward. Like you can think of that and say and butcher it, but the more you say it, the more you realize, okay, they're not judging me. I can keep saying that phrase. Okay. But Korean, Japanese, you have to say it, but you have to overthink it a lot. Like Stephen Krashen's theory about speaking and the effect, the filter effect. Like you check the grammar first and then you say it, right? But technically in Mandarin, you pretty much skip the brain mental the block of actually checking the grammar first and then speak it. That actually comes out the mouth, right? You can Mandarin, you just straight up to skip that step. You skip the security in the airport, you just get out. But Korean and Japanese, you have to go through the security every time. It's like, so much work. No wonder the airports are so crowded most of the time.
Is that like with a lot of these type of things, if you actually watch certain types of dramas in the target language, I mean, I can only really speak for Japanese, but I watched a lot of dramas in Japanese, and all the examples that were just mentioned, I felt like I have seen come up in dramas many different times. You know, like there's tons of dramas where there's children.
Honestly, okay, vocab is actually the easiest for the most common words, but the hardest part is learning the uncommon words. But that's just the realm of vocab. That's the only hard part is hunting for the uncommon words, and can you keep it in your head naturally? Because your brain and you and your soul is not the same person. Because like if you want to force yourself to learn car, you can do short-term memory, like you can force it in the short term, but to naturally let it stay in there, your brain determines when it's ready to make it natural, and you have no control. Just consider like a rebellious kid. I think I said that in my video. It's a rebellious kid, and you have no idea when it's gonna stick or come back to you, like the rebellious kid.
there's parents, and there's parents telling their children to go to bed, or saying like, hey, can you hand me that? Or saying like, oh yeah, I think it's over there. And so really, I think there's very few situations that truly never come up in immersion, yet come up in real life, assuming that you're consuming a wide variety of different types of content in your target language. And so, especially, yeah, if you watch things like dramas or movies, realistic fiction movies, then a lot of these situations will come up. But the way that I think about it is that as long as you're learning a foreign language outside of the country where the language is spoken, there always are going to be gaps in your knowledge. And a lot of times that's not really a problem, because if you have enough of a base in the language, you can work your way around those holes, and you can use the language to explain those concepts that you don't know exactly how a native would express. But if you really want to get to that point where you can plug all of those holes and be as close to a native speaker as possible, then
Seabald's interesting, but following him, his manager. Yeah, okay. Seabald's journey, the thing is, he's doing it, right? The progress is very slow, if you didn't notice. But I respect the guy because he's actually working hard. He has a family, because I don't have a family. But of course, in the end, efficiency is going to be king. You can spend you can spend 10 years, but with a method that's super slow, but you still don't have the balls to talk to some random person, and then they have to actually respect you back. The hard part is, can you get that native speaker to respect you and talk to you like a normal person? And that's the first barrier of entry. But he writes. I saw his TikTok. He writes a lot. Okay, imagine all that time he could be writing. He could just be reading or listening, and then he can actually talk to like native speakers more. If his goal is to write, then make him write, because calligraphy is nice, especially in Mandarin. That's what they have ancient history, an entire sector of writing just for that. But in the end, are we really here to write? Because honestly, just be an author then. Controversial, but his method, I would personally do it. He does a lot of writing, and he does LingQ. So the realm of how many words you need to know, blah, 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 compared to what you actually know, it's such a huge debate, because most people are going to think the known words actually mean the words you can utilize on will. It's like, man, if I could do that, oh, that'd be awesome. But in reality, I wish it doesn't work that way. Honestly, I'm like, the more people come in, the more I'm gonna be distracted from my own learning. But if that's the case, I might as well just start the stream earlier and do. As long as I hit my daily goal, then I'm cool. Because then, yeah, you want to do the minimum requirement needed, at least the minimum. Yeah, true, especially in Korean, because there's no other way to remember it than phonetically. In both Chinese and Japanese, the characters at a second chance. Annoying. Yep. Honestly, the only thing that holds Korean back is the grammar, because Korean grammar is a lot complicated than Japanese. Japanese grammar is more straightforward than Korean. Yeah. Korean is the king of grammar, so is Arabic. I don't know how crazy Arabic is, but I know that Arabic uses the same word system as Japanese Korean, right? It's like subject, object, verb. Yeah. And the script is backwards. Like, holy moly. Imagine reading from right to left. Like, you never do that. You never done that your entire life, and now you're expected to actually do that. But for them, they're used to it in their. I don't know. Persian's the same.
you probably do have to go and live in the country where people are actually speaking that language 24/7 and actually witness those situations firsthand in order to really figure it all out. So yeah, I'd say you can take things pretty far if you're really going out of your way to pick your immersion resources based off of trying to fill the holes in your knowledge. But overall, it might just be more practical to just go to.
Maybe I should ask Mike if I could do like this thing, right? Because he wants to do on a Zoom call, but then I'll have like the YouTube chat on the side. Because if anyone actually ever comes for real, because you guys' time is probably like 10 p.m. to my 1 p.m. here, then you guys can actually ask personal questions, and I'll just ask Mike if he wants. But I think he wants it more formal, so that he can actually edit it and he doesn't have to go over the place and find searching content. in the past, I know I actually used to be a cult member. Like I listened to every single Mad vs Japan. That's why I did like 8 hours a day because of him. Yeah, Ajax. I think the Ajax is legit, but I couldn't handle it personally because I don't. Passive listening is very useful for adapting to speed. Maybe that was the reason why my Mandarin listening got better, but I don't know if it's actually worth the time compared to if you just sit down, just have a transcript and listen and do it at least every day. I think I only know his no new debatable is don't learn from anime now. Back then, learn from anime. Now, don't learn from anime. I haven't been following his new channel. Surprisingly, I used to be a big fan. I think he just went off the face of the planet to live in Japan, and he just came back all of a sudden. Yeah, it's very surprising. Yeah, he's right though. Listen a lot, like a crap load, because listening does rely. Most of my listening theories come from him. Because like passive listening is 1/4 of active listening, which is 1 time. So like the moment I heard that number, okay, then I can actually quantify and use numbers for it. And I get like the idea, like where I could be. It might be wrong, but in the end, it's okay. Just what I think. They all edit it, yeah. He is like a famous YouTuber, right? So we expect from a famous YouTuber like having very quality videos. I can only try to improve my quality. Like the next thing I can improve on is my mic. I can be closer to the mic. I need to figure that out.
The country and live those situations after you have enough of a base where you'll be able to pick things up from your environment pretty quickly and efficiently.
Gotcha. That makes sense. I was trying to think of anything right off that I've seen. Not that I'm proficient enough really to tell, but I've
No. Link on mobile. It's only good in the beginning state. When you're a beginner, use it on mobile. When you're an intermediate and above, use the PC so you can abuse like the system. Use the keyboard system because back in the past, phone was king, but now Link update is their PC so well that you can learn the language even 100 times faster compared to using mobile. Back then, when I learned Mandarin, I used only phone to learn the vocab, and once I reached a certain amount, like 40,000, I used all computer because they upgraded their system so well. God, it was such a pain in the butt before.
I feel like, especially when I was watching Erased, in Japanese, there were specific instances of go to bed and stuff like that because it is dealing with like half of, or over half of the series is the main character in child form. So I guess that makes sense. I think that's the only thing that I've seen right off. I don't remember. I'm sure in Terrace House, maybe they're like good night or something, but I'm sure they're not like, all right, lady, go to bed or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, there's also the potential pitfall of unrealistic or dramatic language being used inside of fictional content that doesn't reflect how people speak in real life and kind of falsely picking up unnatural expressions. And some of that is bound to happen if you're largely learning a language through media. But again, if you actually go and live in the country and you start interacting with native speakers, you'll be able to weed all that stuff out pretty fast, I think.
Yeah. That makes sense. I'm going to jump to Luke's question. Luke, full-time fluency, Luke Truman. How did you go about training your perception to pick up pitch accent? You talked about it a bit with Luca. I would be interested to hear a little more about it.
Quick import feature. I only do quick import feature. Can I say this? Back in the past, like I said for Chinese, I used to type. For Spanish, for example, they did not accept importing automatic generated subtitles such as this. Like this is automatic. Back then, Link did not have this ability, and you had to pretty much find anything that has Spanish CCs, right? But back then, I follow a channel that provides transcripts in the description. So I will go there, highlight from top to bottom, copy paste into the video, download their audio, bring it over. So that's like 3 extra steps, and that's slowed my progress a little down. But now you pretty much import everything on like instant. So that's god level. So we're very fortunate right now what Link can do. They're a whole different league now. But to be honest, because most people don't think much about Link, like you watch any person that reviews language apps, Link is like it doesn't exist. Everyone's gonna always say Duolingo as Duolingo, Anki. Everyone's gonna say Anki is S tier. It is S tier technically. But that's a whole different mythology though. In the end, mythology and how you use it is different. You ever play League of Legends? Probably not. There's a mage character. There's a character that is mage, but there's some streamer on Twitch that plays it as a AD carry. So so for example, like Twisted. I don't know you know this character like Twisted Fate. He is a mage caster. He has cards. He uses magic, right? But this guy builds like all damage, like ADC, and he's challenger. So only anyone that plays League of Legends might know this. Honestly, being a gamer with some analogies do help a lot. Honestly, the only words that are useful in gaming could be for language learning. In this case, you can learn the word like DLC. It means unlocking stuff beyond the normal storyline.
Yeah, so for me, my experience with Japanese pitch accent is a little bit unique because I was essentially completely fluent in Japanese before I even started to consciously pay attention to pitch accent at all. And so if you are not yet fluent in Japanese and you're trying to study pitch accent alongside learning the rest of the language, which I do recommend doing, you're probably going to have a slightly different experience or maybe vastly different experience than me. But to talk about my experience, so basically, yeah, what happened was the first step in the process was consciously learning about pitch accent, kind of building a conscious model of how pitch accent works. So this would consist of what are the various pitch accent patterns? How do these patterns change when verbs conjugate, when adjectives conjugate, when particles attach, when intonation gets thrown into the picture, and so on. So I have this, I built this conscious model of how all of these things work. But when I just building this conscious model and having the knowledge isn't enough to actually hear it when you're listening to real Japanese. And so what happened next after I had the conscious knowledge was whenever I'd be listening to Japanese, I'd try to hear if what my model said should be happening was actually happening. So if my model said like, oh, this word is this pattern and therefore should go up here and drop here, I would actually try to hear the word in terms of what my model said it should sound like. And so, of course, at the beginning, there was, a lot of things that I just couldn't hear. There was some stuff that I could hear right off the bat because, again, I had pretty high level Japanese listening abilities. So I was able to pick things up pretty quickly. But there was kind of this process of basically real Japanese molding my model and my model basically allowing me to pay more attention to Japanese and improve my perception. So basically what would happen was, again, I'd be listening for these rises and falls that my model said should be happening. And then through listening more carefully for those rises and falls, I'd be able to start perceiving them. And then once I started to perceive them, I realized that the reality of these pitch accent patterns was a little bit different than the model that I had kind of made up in my head based off of written descriptions of what those models were supposed to sound like. And so then I would update my model based off
brasileiro e o mais triste com sotaque carioca. Palavras ou com sotaque brasileiro e o mais triste com sotaque carioca do que com a língua sotaque carioca do que com a linguagem portuguesa, né? Então é um fenômeno muito louco isso, né? Como a internet, a gente tá falando de como o inglês afeta o português brasileiro, mas por você ter um país como o nosso que tem tantos criadores de conteúdo, com conteúdo tão rico, um país como o nosso que tem tantos criadores de conteúdo, com conteúdo tão rico, e você tem um conteúdo português, talvez não tenha tão grande quanto é o brasileiro, pô, até aqui eu tenho muitos seguidores portugueses, né? Então a gente tá vendo um fenômeno contrário, né? Nós estamos colonizando a gente tá vendo um fenômeno contrário, né? Nós estamos colonizando Portugal através da linguagem, né?
E deixa muito nítido como língua é instrumento de poder, né? Esse incômodo deles. E o que a gente pode falar sobre isso? Primeiro que é inevitável, língua existe por meio de falantes. Quanto mais falantes você tem, maiores as chances dessa língua ser forte. Quanto mais falantes você tem, maiores as chances dessa língua ser forte e se espalhar. E quanto menos falantes, mais perigo a língua corre, tanto que tem um monte de língua em extinção e muita língua indígena morreu por falta de falantes, por extermínio de língua em extinção, e muita língua indígena morreu por falta de falantes, por extermínio de populações. Então, a existência de pessoas, de população grande, é o fator mais importante para a existência e para sobrevivência de uma língua. O número de brasileiros diante do número de portugueses vai fazer com que o português brasileiro seja mesmo predominante e não tem muito o que lutar contra isso, a não ser que Portugal estivesse exportando muito da produção cultural a ponto de sermos nós os contaminados e não o contrário. Mas não é esse o cenário. Então, assim, eu também
Contrário.
os contaminados e não o contrário. Mas não é esse o cenário. Então, assim, eu também acho que se o filho de pessoas portuguesas que mora em Portugal tá falando com sotaque carioca.
Aí, mané! Perdeu o bonito bacalhau!
Tá se apropriando do vocabulário brasileiro. A esse ponto, talvez ele esteja ficando mais tempo diante do computador do que
Cronicamente online.
seria recomendável.
Viver
Talvez
mais-
ficando mais tempo diante do computador, esteja ficando mais tempo diante do computador do que
Cronicamente online.
seria recomendável.
Viver mais Lucas Neto do que deveria também, né?
Exato, recomendável.
Viver mais Lucas Neto do que deveria também,
Exato,
né?
talvez o problema não seja tanto o português brasileiro. Seu filho, eu acho que não tá com uma programação saudável.
É engraçado, né? Tava tendo um fenômeno.
Com uma programação saudável.
É engraçado, né? Tava tendo um fenômeno agora muito curioso, de novo, dos videogames. Maravilhoso. Que acho que a Nintendo lançou uma versão de um jogo só em português do Brasil. Putz, que delícia, assim. Você viu os portugueses, nós somos tugas, né? Que é o jeito como os portugueses chamam os brasileiros de zucas, né? Os brazucas, e os brasileiros chamam os portugueses de portugas, né? De uns tugas. Os tugas estavam puto no Twitter, assim, tá? Portugueses de portugas, né? De uns tugas. Os tugas estavam puto no Twitter, assim, estavam muito puto.
Nostro ufficio a inizio luglio.
Sì, di fatto
Adesso io ho montato i pannelli fonoassorbenti Io ho montato i pannelli fonoassorbenti ai muri la settimana scorsa.
Esatto.
Dobbiamo montare la tenda, che anche quella
Esatto.
Dobbiamo montare la tenda, che anche quella aiuterà a migliorare il suono, perché chi mi segue sa che ho un po' di quella aiuterà a migliorare il suono, perché chi mi segue sa che ho un po' di paranoie per quanto riguarda la qualità del suono,
E poi ci mancano le piante.
Ci mancano le piante, infatti qui
Poi ci mancano le piante.
Ci mancano le piante, infatti qui dietro a Giulia, questo è il mio ufficio. Ci sarà una bella pianta grande.
Esatto. E poi un po' di quadri, abbiamo comprato 2 belle stampe. Esatto. E poi un po' di quadri, abbiamo comprato 2 belle stampe, ma dobbiamo incorniciarle. E poi piano piano, insomma, ci manca la macchina del caffè, importantissima per noi.
Con le cialde ecologiche.
Esatto, perché per il momento andiamo in un bar qui vicino.
Però bellissimo, siamo felicissimi perché è una cosa che abbiamo detto in un video che abbiamo fatto prima, ma che abbiamo dovuto rifare perché si era fermata la macchina fotografica. Possiamo venire in bicicletta.
È vero, già, non l'abbiamo detto.
Noi da casa possiamo prendere la nostra bicicletta in queste giornate calde ma belle di sole e venire in centro nel nostro ufficio. Quando siamo stanchi di lavorare possiamo uscire a prenderci un caffè.
Esatto, fare 2 passi.
Fare 2 passi, andare al mercato il venerdì mattina, che non abbiamo ancora fatto.
No, infatti, però volendo potremmo farlo.
Però ci ha cambiato la vita.
Sì.
E devo dire che io in ufficio mi sento più produttivo.
Sì, anch'io ho questa impressione, mi sembra di fare di più.
Sì, non so se sia l'euforia dell'inizio, ma
Ma secondo me essere in un ambiente che è dedicato esclusivamente al lavoro fa la differenza, anche perché a casa ci sono varie distrazioni. Non so, magari devi pensare a preparare cosa preparo per pranzo, devo raccogliere i panni, stendere i panni. Queste cose invece le fai, sai che raccogliere i panni, stendere i panni. Queste cose invece le fai, sai che non so, alle 8:30 vuoi andare in ufficio, ti organizzi per fare tutto prima.
Esatto.
Ecco, quindi non so, alle 8:30 vuoi andare in ufficio, ti organizzi per fare tutto prima.
Esatto.
Ecco, quindi anche la nostra routine è cambiata e anche quest'inverno sarà molto diversa rispetto al solito.
sarà bello venire qua in bicicletta con la pioggia, il gelo.
Io l'ho sempre fatto quando lavoravo a scuola, andavo sempre in bicicletta.
Anche
Anche
perché qui il parcheggio costa come l'oro.
Ma
Mal
che vada verremo a piedi, così faremo una bella camminata di prima mattina,
Sì.
un po' lunga a piedi,
Ah no, 20 minuti.
mattina,
Sì.
un po' lunga a piedi,
Ah no, 20 minuti da casa
No, di
nostra.
più.
Sì?
Secondo me di più. A piedi ci vogliono 25 minuti.
Vabbè, 20-25 minuti.
No, poi tieni conto che avremo gli zaini con i computer che sono
Esatto.
pesanti, quindi non cammini proprio sveltissimo. Però è perfetto per noi.
È perfetto per noi. Per il momento ci va benissimo. Se un giorno vorremmo uno spazio più grande, vedremo. E quindi eccoci qua, felici nel nostro nuovo spazio lavorativo, da cui stiamo già girando i primi video per il canale.
Esatto.
Molto bene, allora abbiamo detto tutto quello che volevamo dire. Grazie mille per la tua attenzione e ti ricordiamo che attraverso il link che trovi nella descrizione puoi scaricare la trascrizione gratuita di questa conversazione con il lessico spiegato e usato in contesto. E da quel momento potrai ricevere anche tutti i video e i video podcast futuri con le trascrizioni già incluse nell'email, senza bisogno di inserire sempre il tuo nome e il tuo indirizzo email, perché troverai già tutto nelle email che riceverai in futuro. Grazie mille per la tua fiducia, ti salutiamo e ci vediamo al prossimo episodio.
Ciao!
Ciao a tutti! Eccoci arrivati a una nuova puntata del video podcast di Vaporetto Italiano, il podcast che ti aiuta a migliorare il tuo italiano episodio dopo episodio. E anche oggi sono qui con Giulia.
Ciao!
E parleremo di un argomento importante, perché il 5 ottobre si celebra la giornata mondiale dell'insegnante. E in qualità di insegnanti
Abbiamo pensato che fosse interessante e bello
parlare di questo, quindi dare il nostro contributo e raccontare la nostra esperienza.
Esatto. La giornata mondiale degli insegnanti si celebra ogni anno, il 5 ottobre, in occasione dell'anniversario dell'adozione delle raccomandazioni UNESCO in tema di diritti degli insegnanti, di condizioni di lavoro per gli insegnanti, sul tema della loro preparazione.
Je suis très contente de parler du sujet du jour. Et le sujet du jour, c'est les faits divers. C'est un mot. Et le sujet du jour, c'est les faits divers. C'est un mot que peut-être beaucoup ne comprennent pas ou ne connaissent pas. Et pourtant, nous, en France, on en parle tout le temps des faits divers. Ce mot-là est très connu. En France, on en parle tout le temps des faits divers. Ce mot-là est très connu, on l'apprend très vite. C'est même 2 mots, faits divers. C'est en 2 mots. C'est un mot, ouais, exactement, qu'on entend, au quotidien et c'est un mot même qui nous fascine, mais au-delà du mot, tout temps, au quotidien et c'est un mot même qui nous fascine, mais au-delà du mot, tout ce que renferment les, faits divers, ça nous fascine et aujourd'hui, on a envie tout ce que renferment les, faits divers, ça nous fascine et aujourd'hui, on a envie de comprendre pourquoi ça nous fascine autant, les faits divers et je vous envie de comprendre pourquoi ça nous fascine autant, les faits divers et je vous rappelle que la transcription détaillée de cet épisode est à retrouver sur Patreon avec plein de choses, des épisodes, plus longs, des, plus d'histoires, plus de français, réel, plus de français, vivant. Donc on vous attend et le lien est dans la description. Voilà, donc on va voir comment on va appeler après l'enregistrement, comment on va appeler cet épisode, Violaine. Mais voilà, ça fait quelque temps qu'on voulait parler des faits divers. C'est une passion. On voulait parler des faits divers. C'est une passion française, peut-être une passion que connaissent beaucoup de gens aussi dans le monde. Mais avant tout, il faudrait passion que connaissent beaucoup de gens aussi dans le monde. Mais avant tout, il faudrait peut-être, c'est très important de définir cette notion de faits divers. Qu'est-ce que c'est alors? Exactement, parce qu'on parle peut-être, c'est très important de définir cette notion de faits divers. Qu'est-ce que c'est alors? Exactement, parce qu'on parle de faits divers depuis 1 ou 2 minutes, mais certains auditeurs peuvent se demander qu'est-ce que c'est? Ou 2 minutes, mais certains auditeurs peuvent se demander qu'est-ce que c'est? Bon, un fait divers, c'est un terme à la base qui est quand même, journalistique, ça vient du journalisme et d'ailleurs encore aujourd'hui quand on lit un journal papier en France, enfin un journal papier, français, on lit un journal papier en France, enfin un journal papier, français, dans les rubriques, dans les catégories, il y a encore une catégorie, faits les rubriques dans les catégories, il y a encore une catégorie, faits divers. Donc on va le définir. Moi, j'ai noté une petite définition. On va le définir. Moi, j'ai noté une petite définition, qui est la définition du dictionnaire, je pense. Donc, un fait divers, c'est tous les événements du jour. Ça peut être un accident, ça peut être un délit, ça peut être des crimes. Un incendie, par exemple, un accident de la route. Ça peut être des crimes. Un incendie, par exemple, un accident de la route, tu as raison. Exactement. Et donc, c'est des événements qui. La route, tu as raison. Exactement. Et donc, c'est des événements qui ont aucun lien entre eux, mais qui entrent dans qui ont aucun lien entre eux, mais qui entrent dans aucune autre catégorie de l'information. Donc, par exemple, l'économie, l'actualité internationale, l'actualité nationale, la politique, etc. Le sport, l'environnement, comme quand on va par exemple sur le site politique, le sport, l'environnement, comme quand on va par exemple sur le site, tu sais, du Monde, du journal Le Monde, lemonde.fr, il y a toutes ces rubriques, tu as raison. Faits divers, c'est tous les. Il y a toutes ces rubriques, tu as raison. Faits divers, c'est tous les à côté. Mais on parle avant tout de ça. C'est vrai que ça, c'est, je pense, la définition un peu classique divers, c'est tous les à côté. Mais on parle avant tout de ça. C'est vrai que ça, c'est, je pense, la définition un peu classique, traditionnelle, originelle. Mais je crois que depuis quelques années, surtout quand on parle des faits divers, surtout quand on parle des faits divers, il y a les petits et les grands faits divers, comme on dit, et quand on parle divers, il y a les petits et les grands faits divers, comme on dit, et quand on parle des faits divers, on parle surtout des crimes, des gros crimes, donc des meurtres, des viols par exemple, et puis aussi de délits, mais donc des meurtres, des viols par exemple, et puis aussi de délits, mais des délits qui sont assez importants, quoi. Bah, aujourd'hui, je pense à nos auditeurs ou aux gens qui nous regardent sur YouTube, s'ils parlent à un Français dans la vie normale et que ce Français ou cette Française évoque un fait divers, je suis sûre à 99% que ce sera fait divers, je suis sûre à 99% que ce sera un crime ou un viol ou en tout cas quelque chose de sordide, de cruel quelque chose de sordide, de cruel qui intrigue et qui fascine ou qui nous fait peur. Mais il y a vraiment cette relation de fascination. Quand on parle d'un fait divers, on va pas vous parler forcément d'un accident de la route, Jamais. d'un chien écrasé. Non, ça va être d'un accident de la route, Jamais. d'un chien écrasé. Non, ça va être un gros truc. En général lié à un meurtre, lié à d'autres choses sordides. On parle en fait d'une grande affaire criminelle. C'est vrai, ce terme est important, une affaire criminelle. Et ce qui est marrant, un petit point de vocabulaire ou de culture, tu sais comment on appelle aussi cette rubrique des faits divers dans l'argot, par exemple, surtout dans l'argot. Ça vient de l'argot. Oui. Je crois. Vas-y. Je crois qu'on dit que c'est Faits divers dans l'argot, par exemple, surtout dans l'argot. Ça vient de l'argot. oui. Je crois. Vas-y. Je crois qu'on dit que c'est la catégorie des chiens écrasés. C'est ça, la rubrique des chiens écrasés. Catégorie des chiens écrasés. C'est ça, la rubrique des chiens écrasés. Avec tout ce côté un peu péjoratif de l'époque, mais je pense que ça a évolué. Ce regard-là a évolué. On va pouvoir en parler. C'est ça qui est aussi intéressant. Donc aujourd'hui, on va vous parler de pourquoi ça fascine autant les Français, les faits divers. Et évidemment, on va parler de quelques-unes des plus grandes affaires criminelles qui ont marqué les Français, qui marquent encore les Français. Donc, on va y aller. Et pour commencer, j'ai envie de te demander, évidemment, Nathan, de parler un peu de toi, un peu de moi. Toi, quel est ton rapport aux faits divers? Est-ce que tu aimes consommer du contenu lié aux faits divers? Est-ce que ça t'intéresse? Tu aimes consommer du contenu lié aux faits divers? Est-ce que ça t'intéresse? Ou au contraire, est-ce que tu méprises et tu trouves que c'est pas intéressant? Ou au contraire, est-ce que tu méprises et tu trouves que c'est pas intéressant? Bah moi, je pense que c'est très intéressant. Ça va peut-être choquer certaines personnes qui nous écoutent, mais ça m'intéresse, ça me fascine. Là encore, je fais référence aux grandes affaires criminelles, pas pour le côté sordide, pas pour le côté voyeur, pas pour le côté malsain ou crado. Voyeur, pas pour le côté malsain ou crado, comme on dit, c'est-à-dire un peu sale. Bon, les faits en eux-mêmes, c'est-à-dire les crimes, les détails, la manière dont ils ont été tués, ça peut intéresser, mais ça va être plutôt ce qu'il y a après, tu vois. C'est vraiment tout le contour, on va dire, qui touche à la société. Par exemple, pour moi, un grand fait divers, une grande affaire criminelle, souvent derrière tout ça, il y a un regard, il y a une analyse qui est intéressante et qui va toucher donc la politique, la société, qui va aussi avoir un
Yeah, so these are all generated, so I might miss some words, but that's good to know. That's a good error.
un côté même philosophique, psychologique, et tout ce côté-là, je trouve que c'est
Yeah, YouTube is not the best. Appreciate the catch though. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
壺とか交わされてないか不安。合掌造りの作り。合掌造りの作り、めっちゃ美味しそうです。お味はいかがでしょうか。お味はいかがでしょうか。美味しすぎて2回目の乾杯。美味しすぎて2回目の乾杯。ママはお酒を飲むと楽しくなって乾杯をたくさんするタイプです。乾杯をたくさんするタイプです。
茶碗蒸し。ちっちゃい頃からいっぱい食べてた茶碗蒸し。ちっちゃい頃からいっぱい食べてた茶碗蒸し。ママも作ってくれてたよね、昔。ママも作ってくれてたよね、昔。茶碗蒸しよく。ママも作ってくれてたよね、昔。茶碗蒸しよく。でもさ、お寿司行くときさ、茶碗蒸し頼むとたまに怒られてた。茶碗蒸し頼むとたまに怒られてた。覚えてる？そう、なんか言ってんだって。そう、なんか言ってんだって。お刺身食べずに茶碗蒸しばっかり食べたら怒られてた。茶碗蒸しばっかり食べたら怒られてた。
ついにやってきました。飛騨牛。食べなくても美味しいのが伝わってきますね。今日はママが主役なので、飛騨牛をよそってあげます。飛騨牛をよそってあげます。口の中で雪みたいにとろける柔らかさ。口の中で雪みたいにとろける柔らかさ。最高です。
ママ優が生まれた。嬉しいね。ママ優が生まれた。嬉しいね。
親孝行できてるかな？ね。親孝行できてるかな？ね。ありがとう。
親孝行しようとしてお肉を1枚あげたら、親孝行しようとしてお肉を1枚あげたら、譲り合いバトルに発展しました。譲り合いバトルに発展しました。
ゆうか野菜の方が好き。ゆうか野菜の方が好き。
ね。玉ねぎだし。ね。玉ねぎだし。
ゆうかはママが好き。
ありがとう。
最後のデザートは季節のフルーツのゼリー。お料理多いかなって思ったけど、無限に食べれそうなくらい全部美味しかったです。無限に食べれそうなくらい全部美味しかったです。ごちそうさまでした。それじゃあママをとある場所に連れて行きます。
For immersion question, I used to do it for the Mandarin, but now I only do active listening, as in I sit down somewhere. Like you can do it with your phone on Link as well, but if I had like time, I would sit down and I would have audio and the transcript, and that's like, in my opinion, the real progress. Because when you're in immersion, if you're paying attention when you're listening, okay, then you are more likely doing both of active and passive because you don't have the transcript. So you have no idea. Your brain needs confirmation if the word you're listening to is actually the word that you're trying to learn as you're listening. So since there's no confirmation, it's only going to guess based on assumption, and therefore it cannot really comprehend it completely, and the acquisition effect works. unless like Spanish, French, okay, that's super straightforward. But we're talking about languages that do not sound similar to English. Okay, so if your language is like Mandarin, Japanese, Korean, like these levels, you need the transcript no matter what. Any language you need a transcript, but like okay, I'll say like the only language you don't need transcripts like Spanish most of the time, but you do need to have transcript to increase the speed. Immersion is good for adapting to speed of the sound because when you listen so much, your brain automatically adapts to speed, but you probably won't understand it. So, but the thing is that you're going to hear every sound possible when you do the immersion. So that's the advantage, that if you do like immersion, your brain will adapt to the speed, and that way you do sit down and do listen, you can catch every single sound. So the hard part is identifying each sound and then processing the meaning, because without you can't hear the word, you can't learn it, right? Hey, not me, 12, C9K. This is your first time, my first time seeing you here, so welcome. And Snorlax, you're back again with the red glove high five wave. I'm just studying, so feel free to mute me and just study on your own. Otherwise, just ask any questions that you want and they'll answer it.
結野省からバスで移動して白川郷に戻ってきました。ママはバスの車内で一緒だった人と友達になってました。さすが陽キャ。今日は実は年に4回しかない白川郷ライトアップの日なんですよね。どうしてもこの日にママを連れて行きたくて、ずっと前から計画してました。展望台からの景色はこんな感じ。小木町の合掌造り集落が一望できて、とっても幻想的な雰囲気です。ママの誕生日をお祝いしてくれてるみたいで、特別な景色を見せられてよかったです。
これいらない。これいいよ。わかるよ。これいらない。
無事にライトアップも楽しめたので、これから結野省に戻りたいと思います。浴衣着替えた。イエイ。
When learning on Link, how many words do you shoot for to Link a day? When you start, I shoot for 100 every time, but as you advance, the priority of Link switches to known words. for example, when I started Mandarin, I did 100 for a while, and then I shifted to like 300 just because the more links you do, the more known words are going to convert naturally, right? So the more links you do, the more known words will convert. So I recommend you keep like a consistent routine. I say the minimum routine required. So I did 100. 100 links a day is actually pretty easy, unless you're doing like Indonesian or Vietnamese. Then those are going to be a little challenging because 100. But they reach like a plateau at 10,000 words. Once you're there, then. But if you're learning Korean, Japanese, then you're gonna need like 100, 200, 300, like multiply by 2 or 3. Plan to learn Hindi, bruh. Oh, Hindi. Hindi's actually pretty. They have so much culture in Hindi. Yeah, I think Hindi is a nice language. How long are you planning to learn? So you haven't started yet. Are you planning to learn through textbooks or LingQ? Because I'm not sure where you came from. I'm not sure you came from LingQ or YouTube casually, or you're just passing by. But yeah, Hindi has like 29 internal languages. Yeah, you guys have. There's a lot of dialects too. That's the challenging part. Like, India has so many languages. I know everyone knows like 4 or 5 languages naturally. They don't give India enough credit for all the multilingualism because we know like, oh, Singapore's too. They're so awesome for the education system. Then there's Malaysia that exists that speaks 3 Malaysian, English, and Chinese. They don't get enough credit. And there's India, like 4 or 5 per person.
Good. お部屋に戻ってきたので、2人で晩酌を楽しみます。ちゃっかりお揃いのキーホルダーまでゲットしてますね。
Okay, now I learned something new. Honestly, I could probably debate that China has a lot too, but I think India has a lot more.
乾杯。誕生日おめでとう。
ありがとう。
楽しかった今日。
楽しかったよ。よかった。ね。
Just need a moment. What do you mean by internal and external languages in Hindi? Good question. I think China has more difficult languages. Technically, Chinese is very difficult to like if you were thrown on the planet as like an alien, Mandarin's like the last thing you want to learn. Indonesian's the easiest, I heard. If you were to drop from 0, start over again from birth.
親孝行なったかな。
ありがとうね。
あ、そうだ。
많이 컸잖아요, 애기들이. 많이 컸잖아요, 애기들이. 누구 닮았어요? 많이 컸잖아요, 애기들이. 누구 닮았어요?
첫째가 나를 너무 닮은 거야. 둘째는 지연이를 닮은. 첫째가 나를 너무. 첫째가 나를 너무 닮은 거야. 둘째는 지연이를 닮았으면 좋겠다. 이게 웬 거야? 첫째보다 나를 더 닮았어. 여기는 그냥 도장이야. 그러니까 우리 집은 조정석이 셋, 범위가 하나. 우리 집은 조정석이 셋, 범위가 하나.
조정석이 셋.
범위 하나.
그럼 만약에 병원이가 사춘기가 왔어. 사춘기가 와서 꽝! 어쩌라고!
나 지금 울컥하는데?
사춘기가 와서 꽝! 어쩌라고!
나 지금 울컥하는데? 나 진심.
뭔데요?
야, 그러면 진짜 너무 속상해.
그럼 어떡해요?
거미 잡고 울겠지.
너무 걱정되겠다. 딸 둘이면. 어떡해요?
So that means there in the country there's 129 spoken, 159 is just existing in general, but probably just they're not as famous. Just like Latin is a dead language, but the other 30 whatever languages they are just more on script. And like Egyptian, just like the Egyptian hieroglyphics, how you say it? It's like that, right? It just exists in text, but no one ever speaks it. Hindi, do you mean India? Technically, Hindi is one language of India, right? It just happens to be like one of the most used ones. It's like how Mandarin Chinese is in China.
거미 잡고 울겠지.
어떡해요?
거미 잡고 울겠지.
너무 걱정되겠다. 딸 둘이면.
배씨.
그럼 만약에 애기가 조정석 같은 남자를 데려왔어.
나는 축복해.
진짜?
나는 진짜로.
어머.
제발.
여러분 안녕하세요. 헬스클럽의 혜리입니다. 여러분 벌써 제가 사랑하는 여름이 다가오고 있는데요. 두둥 다음 주면 무주 산골 영화제가 다가오고 있는데요. 두둥 다음 주면 무주 산골 영화제가 개막합니다. 무주 산골 영화제가 개막합니다. 제가 또 무주 산골 영화제 넥스트 액터로 선정이 돼서 함께 하게 됐죠. 제가 또 무주 산골 영화제 넥스트 액터로 선정이 돼서 함께 하게 되잖아요. 정말 공들여서 만든 트레일러도 되잖아요. 정말 공들여서 만든 트레일러도 오픈을 곧 하고 부끄럽지만 저의 책도 곧 보실 수가 있습니다. 제가 또 나중에 브이로그로 말씀을 드리겠지만 한 1년을 준비한 프로젝트예요. 그래서 오픈이 된다고 하니까 너무너무 기대가 되고 또 무주 산골 영화제 동안 저의 전시도 열릴 예정이거든요. 산골 영화제 동안 저의 전시도 열릴 예정이거든요. 기대 많이 많이 해주셨으면 좋겠습니다. 무주 산골 영화제를 하고 나면은 두 번째 팬미팅 헤라이드도 개최가 되는데요. 헤라이드도 개최가 되는데요. 올림픽인가요? 다 여러분들의 사랑 덕분입니다. 헤름이 사랑해. 정말 기쁜 소식을 한아름 드리면서 헤름이 사랑해. 정말 기쁜 소식을 한아름 드리면서 오늘의 헬스클럽 시작해 볼 텐데요. 오늘 게스트분도 진짜 저와 인연이 깊은 게스트분이에요. 오늘 보자마자 너무 반가워가지고 사실 인사도 나눴는데 만능 엔터테이너의 끝판왕이잖아요. 이분을 드디어 헬스클럽에 모셨습니다. 배우 조정석님 모실게요.
안녕하세요. 조정석입니다.
와, 헬스클럽에 드디어 무주 대스타.
무슨 무슨 대사타야. 대사타?
헬스클럽 구독자분들에게 인사.
안녕하세요. 헬스클럽 구독자 여러분. 예, 조정석입니다. 진작에 우리 해리가 하는 헬스클럽에 나왔어야 되는데 이제야 이렇게 모습을 드러내서 너무 송구스럽고 나왔어야 되는데 이제야 이렇게 모습을 드러내서 너무 송구스럽고 어쨌든 이렇게 초대해 주셔서 이제야 이렇게 모습을 드러내서 너무 송구스럽고 어쨌든 이렇게 초대해 주셔서 감사합니다. 오늘 재밌게 초대해 주셔서 감사합니다. 오늘 재밌게 토크 해봐요.
토크 해봐요. 저희도 진짜 오랜만에 봐요. 사실 저희가 작년에 오고 봤잖아요. 기억나세요? 작년에 오고 봤잖아요. 기억나세요?
작년에 어디서 봤지 우리가?
백상에서.
맞아, 백상에서.
오빠 상 받을 때.
맞아. 본 거는 그거.
오빠 상 받을 때.
맞아. 본 거는 그거고.
네.
우리가 연락한 건 얼마 안 되지.
맞아.
그렇지. 올해 초?
맞아요.
1월인가?
1월에 제가 또 이제 오빠가 조정석 쇼에서
맞아.
엄청난 무대를 펼치셨는데 제가 그걸 보고 감명을 받아가지고 오빠한테 연락을 드렸어요. 그때 뭐였지? 그
전국 스탠딩 넥스트 유.
그때 뭐였지? 그
전국 스탠딩 넥스트 유.
엄청납니다. 진짜
아유.
말도 안 되는
아유,
무대.
무슨 뭐가-
엄청납니다.
아유.
진짜 말도 안 되는 무대.
무슨 뭐가 엄청.
아니,
죄송할게요.
아니 너무 멋있는 거예요. 그래서 제가 오빠한테 오빠 미쳤습니다. 오빠가 무대를 뒤집어 놓으셨습니다. 이러면서 오빠한테 오빠 미쳤습니다. 오빠가 무대를 뒤집어 놓으셨습니다. 이러면서 제가 보냈죠.
그 문자만 봤는데도 만난 것 같은 느낌이었어요.
그러니까요. 제가 또 약간 술을 한잔 하면서
아유, 너무 좋죠.
얘기를 나누는
네.
오빠랑 술 마신 지가
500년?
500년 정도 됐죠.
소주를 이 양주잔에 위스키 잔에 받으니까 또
500년 정도 됐죠.
소주를 이 양주잔에 위스키 잔에 받으니까 또
500년 정도 됐죠.
소주를 이 양주잔에 위스키 잔에 받으니까 또
멋있죠.
느낌이 보드카 같네.
짠.
반갑습니다.
저희가 드라마를 같이 투캅스라는 드라마를 하고 거의 9년 만에
맞아.
같이 만나는 것 같아요.
맞아. 아, 그때 우리 진짜 참 여러 에피소드가 많았는데. 그러니까 뭐냐면 뭐 하나 풀어도 돼?
그럼요.
저 안주주 하나.
네. 드세요. 곱창.
저 안주주 하나.
네. 드세요. 곱창 드세요. 곱돌이.
완전 좋아하지.
닭이.
안주주 하나.
네. 드세요. 곱창 드세요. 곱돌이.
완전 좋아하지.
닭이랑 곱창이랑 대창이랑 섞인 건 것 같아요.
완전 좋아하지.
닭이랑 곱창이랑 대창이랑 섞인 건 것 같아요.
잘 먹겠습니다.
잘 먹겠습니다.
Off of what I was actually experiencing in real Japanese. And then once my model was more accurate, it would be easier for me to pay even more close and precise attention to the pitch accent patterns. And then I'd slowly become able to hear them more clearly. And then I would be able to then, through that, update my model further. So it was kind of this process of using my model to pay attention to Japanese in the right ways. And then through paying attention, my perception improves. And then with that improved perception, I'm able to then in turn improve my model. And kind of there's this positive feedback loop that would just continue to play out until it got to the point where whenever I would listen to Japanese, I was able to just effortlessly hear exactly what was going on with the pitch accent in almost every situation. And also my model became so intuitive to me that it's almost subconscious at this point. I mean, I can still feel that there is this conscious model operating when I'm, consciously thinking about pitch accent and things like that, but it's become very fast and intuitive. But overall, yeah, I'd say that was the process.
Yeah, I think pitch accent, I had an interview yesterday with Ash Kiniku Ninja, and he was talking about how he didn't really care about that. And I thought I know. Well, everybody on this, not everybody on this channel, because most of the people are here from yours, but how I am in terms of setting goals and especially oversetting stuff and then not reaching, and I get overwhelmed with myself and I stop. But I was thinking about pitch accent, and the Japan Code left a comment, and I never thought about pitch accent this way until he said it, but he said that basically pitch accent, because he said he had this happen when he learned English, and that was that if you don't have that kind of correct, if your English or Japanese is still just a little bit off, they will still kind of talk to you differently because they assume that you're not going to understand them because of the way that you're speaking. It's like a giant paragraph that he left for me, but I'd never really thought about it like that, because he said he went through the same thing, until he started working on how the sounds naturally happened and were produced, people wouldn't really they were still talking to him like he was a kid, but as an adult, I don't know. I don't know if you have any kind of input on that.
I mean, for me, the way I think about it is that no matter who you are, if you're even remotely serious about speaking Japanese as a foreign language, you should be paying some attention to pitch accent, because even if all you do in your entire life is spend 1 hour learning the very basics of pitch accent, that 1 hour will forever change the way that you hear Japanese, and you'll be forever more aware of how pitch is operating. And through being more aware of how pitch is operating every time you hear Japanese, you're going to subconsciously pick up more of those pitch accent patterns and then exhibit them yourself when you're speaking. So it's very hard to argue from my perspective that it's not worth spending 1 hour learning the very basics of pitch accent, because that 1 hour alone is going to probably have pretty significant ripple through benefits to the way you speak Japanese. So really, in my mind, if you're being reasonable and you're kind of educated on the topic, it's not really a matter of should you study pitch accent or not. It's more a matter of degree. To what extent should you actually study pitch accent? And for some, yeah, maybe it's just going to be that 1 hour because due to their goals and priorities, it's not really going to be worth their time after that. But I'd say for most people, it's probably going to be somewhere more than 1 hour, probably somewhere less than the amount of time that I've put into pitch accent. But I think that should be where the discussion is, and not really is pitch accent something you should completely ignore or go balls to the wall on. Right. And I'm kind of always frustrated that a lot of the community is still stuck in that sort of place.
Right.
But with addressing kind of exactly what I mean, more directly what you said. I mean, realistically, none of us are ever going to sound like we were born and raised in Japan.
Right.
We're always going to have some amount of foreign accent, and we're always going to get treated differently because of that. That is the reality. Of course, the more native-like accent that you can speak Japanese with, the more that you're going to get treated like an adult more quickly, and the more pleasant that your Japanese is going to be to listen to. So yeah, for me, I want to sound as Japanese as possible when I speak Japanese, and I think everyone ultimately would like to be able to speak Japanese like a Japanese person. It's just a matter of how much time and effort are we willing to put towards that. But
right.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that you can get significant gains in your Japanese pronunciation with relatively small amounts of work by studying the key concepts in pitch accent. So I think that's going to be worth it to anyone serious about Japanese.
Okay. Maybe I might change up my thing, but maybe I'll introduce that later on, because like I told you with my stuff, like I've got to have this stuff incrementally introduced, because if not, I overwhelm myself, and then I'm like, all right, time to quit. So, all right, and the last one from my phone, and then we'll jump into the chat here, is from Shocker293. All right, yeah. So, and this is actually, we were talking about this a little bit before the stream, but how long did it take you to get used to reading? I have around 1,500 words. I guess it says have around 1,500 words in. And when I try to read, unknown words don't bother me. The grammar, I can't understand at all. Any tips to study grammar?
So he said he knows 1,500 words?
Yes.
So 1,500 words is nothing. So if you only know 1,500 words, I honestly don't buy that it's grammar that is tripping you up while you're reading. It has to be lack of words. If you don't know like at least 5,000 words, reading a book is going to be quite difficult.
Yeah.
And I mean, really, grammar is not what's really going to trip anyone up when it comes to understanding the language. It's always going to be vocabulary. Vocabulary is the thing that's really difficult because the system of grammar is limited, right? Like you can read one comprehensive book on grammar and then you know every grammatical structure that exists in that language, essentially.
Right.
Whereas with vocabulary, there's no end to it, right? There's thousands and thousands of words that are used by native speakers, and of course, you don't need to know all of them. Like no one knows every word, but yeah, I mean, really, it's probably going to be in most situations lack of vocabulary that's going to be creating most of the limitations that you experience when it comes to using your target language. I mean, if you're struggling with grammar, I mean, there's really only two things to do. Like, yeah, you can read a grammar guide. That can be helpful, but I wouldn't spend too much time on that. The other thing is just you need to get more input. And the more input you get, then the more you'll acquire the grammar and the more intuitive it will become. For myself, I never really found Japanese grammar that difficult or challenging. I mean, a lot of the initial reading that I did, was watching anime with Japanese subtitles. And that was nice because if there's something I didn't understand, I could easily just skip over it and let the story continue rolling. And I would only really pay attention to the sentences that felt within reach. And if a sentence is within reach, then you're going to be able to grasp what's going on with the grammar. And so even if that means you start off with just very simple two-word sentences, then so be it. You can start working on those, and then you can move on to 3-word sentences and 4-word sentences, and keep growing your intuition for how the language works. But
all right. I'm gonna we're gonna do some questions from the chat, but first I told Matt I wanted to ask some random, because like I said, I feel like he's gonna say a lot of stuff that a lot of you guys maybe have heard at least partial segments of. So I wanted to ask Matt some kind of not necessarily off topic, but somewhat off topic, just to get, I don't know, just some additional information. Like, I want to talk for just a second about like the editing on your videos and stuff. Not anything in particular, but like some of the videos are very like highly produced looking, like they're edited very, very well, it seems, because you'll cut between like,
I mean, I don't know about that
footage of this, and then you're doing voiceovers and stuff. Like, how long does it take you to edit some of that stuff?
I mean, personally, I would consider my video editing ability to be quite rudimentary. Like, mostly what I'm doing is just cutting clips. And I mean, really just cutting clips and then sticking some B-roll on top of it doesn't really take any editing skill, really. I mean, I think I have gotten better over the past couple of years, and I've added a few new kind of tricks into my arsenal when it comes to, you know, things I do when I'm editing. But I mean, a video like the one that I released 2 weeks ago, the natives won't correct all your mistakes.
Right.
That probably took like 10 hours to edit, I would say, like once I have all the clips. And that was pretty minimal. Like a lot of that was just my face talking. And then sometimes there would be B-roll. But something like, if you have seen my video called Why You Still Can't Understand Your Target Language, which is like this half-hour long video where there's actually no clips of my face talking. I just, in that video, I wrote the entire script out first, and then I recorded my voice reading the script, and then I just found B-roll and text and stuff to fill the screen while my voice was explaining everything. So that video took a long time. That video took forever. That probably was like between like maybe like 30 hours of editing, stuff like that. But probably the video that took the longest to make was my RTK video that I made like 2 years ago. That video took like a month to make total, and that was a crazy amount of work. And it's kind of unfortunate because now I don't even really agree with the position that I'm arguing for in that video. I keep the video up because it still attracts a lot of attention to my channel and attracts a lot of WaniKani users that might potentially be interested in switching over to RTK. So there's still some value in it, but I'm kind of ambivalent about it because I see people commenting on the video to this day like, oh, wow, this video is awesome. I'm going to start doing RTK. And I'm like, well, no, actually don't do RTK. Like, I know I explained it in the video, but actually I realized that there's some further complications and stuff like that. But anyway, yeah. Someone asked what video I edit with. I edit with Sony Vegas. Well, it used to be called Sony Vegas. The program actually got changed to just be called Vegas Pro. But I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. I hear a lot of good things about Premiere, Adobe Premiere. And really, I'd want to edit with Premiere myself, but Sony Vegas was just what I happened to learn with. And it's hard to justify converting over to a whole new program, even though the one that I'm using now works just fine. But
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Premiere. I use, which anybody who watches this channel probably thinks that I'm lying about my editing because I don't edit anything here because it's just a train of thought. But on the other channel that I have, when I edited, like when I did those vlogs for like 650 consecutive days, I used Premiere. It was super. I mean, it's literally just drag and drop. Like it's super easy.
Yeah. Like I kind of want to get into the Adobe ecosystem. Like I want to learn Photoshop as well. I don't know how to use Photoshop at all. But yeah, it's been something I've been kind of just putting off forever now.
Yeah, they have that Adobe Cloud thing is like, what I pay $20 a month to use Adobe like Premiere, which if you're only using it for a short time, it's not a bad idea, and it does update to the new ones. But I guess overall, if you're using it long term, it'd probably still be cheaper to buy it outright. But I don't know. And then I think you can bundle that for like 25 or maybe 30, and you can pick like multiple programs to use monthly. So, all right, let's see here.
Cool. By the way, I just gotta say, I always have this struggle while I'm live streaming where I'm reading the chat and I'm like conscious of people talking in the chat, and then that just is constantly eating up 20% of my brain power, and I'm trying to do everything else with the 80% that's left over.
No, I know. That's why I always feel like people think I have like some sort of nervous twitch because my eyes keep, but I'm always looking over at the chat to kind of see what's happening. Let's see here.
Should we scroll up to the top or just start at the bottom?
Yeah, if you guys have posted questions, just start posting them now, and we'll start. or not we, Matt can start answering, because I would not take my advice on learning Japanese as of right now. So, but let me see. I think he said in his Patreon video, he likes I+1 to I+2 best for most of the time for efficiency. Yeah, I mean, anything. I think I had told you when I had first started, I was trying to do sentences, and it would be like 90% of stuff that I don't know. So, I mean, I don't find that that's overly useful. Did you?
Yeah. Wait, that was a response to a question. Are we sure the original question?
Rob TV.
I add every word I don't know in a sentence. Lol. Works well for me. Because I think I+1 is too slow for me, and I can handle repping a sentence that's I+1. That's pretty inefficient, to be honest. I+1 is too slow. Like, it's basically there's this idea called the minimum information principle when it comes to making SRS cards, where you want every SRS card that you have to test you on the minimum amounts of information possible. And instead of having one card that tests you on 3 ideas, it's better to just have 3 separate cards. Because the problem is the interval of any given card is going to be basically dragged down to the lowest common denominator of all the different things that you're being tested with that card. So let's say you have 3 words, right? If you forget one of those words, you have to fail that card. And now when you fail that card, that means you're doing unnecessary review on the 2 words that you actually did know on that card. Whereas if you actually had 3 separate cards for each of these words, then you would only have to be doing increased reps on the card that contained the word you didn't know. And then for the cards that contain the words that you did know, their intervals would be able to grow exponentially faster, and you would be able to spend way less time on them. So instead of making one I+8 card, why don't you just make 8 I+1 cards? And then that way, all the intervals on each of those individual cards will be able to grow more quickly. Plus, it's just more efficient to learn in a more kind of targeted, direct way like that. Like, in my experience learning I+2 or more sentences is that all the different target words get kind of jumbled together in your head. It takes like exponentially more energy to rep that card, and it just slows down the whole process. So really, you want to be spending as little time as possible on each card. It's better to have more easy cards than to have a smaller number of more difficult cards. It's just going to make your repping process more efficient and overall just more streamlined. So yeah, I would say stick to I+1, I+2 in some very specific circumstances when you just can't get another sentence, or you have some sort of very special attachment to a given sentence. Then sometimes I+2 is permissible, but in general, you want to just stick to I+1.
Yeah. What's your alternative to SRS? I tend to try a lot more than 20 cards per day and way too many reviews waiting for me in no time. I would say, just as an inexperienced person,
go ahead.
I was going to say I would just not do more than 20 cards a day. That would be just to not.
Yeah,
get
that's
those
what I was going
reviews.
to say. Like 20 words a day is so much. Like even 10 words a day is so much. That's, hundreds of words every month, thousands of words every year. If you actually just do 10 words a day and stay consistent with that, you'll end up having a huge vocabulary within a few years. So you really got to look at the long-term gains and not get caught up in, trying to be impatient in the short term.
Yeah, 10 words is, that's 3,600 words a year. Like,
yeah, and that's what I did with Japanese, and
yeah.
it allowed me to get to the point where I have a larger passive vocabulary than all my Japanese friends. So
yep, I know that somebody was telling me, it was one of my friends was telling me that I think it was somebody. Anyway, that Japanese from Zero guy, George Trombley, was talking about how people get so wrapped up in wanting to learn it quick, especially like kanji, for example. We're learning kanji in 3 months and trying to get that, but Japanese people go through 9 years of learning it.
That's ridiculous. That should not be acceptable.
Yeah.
Japanese people could learn to read kanji in 1 year if they had an efficient method, like to the level of a high schooler.
Mm-hmm.
If they had an efficient method, because they're already fluent in Japanese. Elementary school students aren't, but yeah. You also have to take that into account though, because of course they start part of the first year of those 9 years, they're in first grade and have a pretty limited vocabulary to begin with. So it is, I guess, a little more complicated. But yeah, overall, they learn kanji extremely inefficiently.
Yeah, it takes forever. Do you feel that your English ability deteriorates while immersing using MIA? How would you combat this while reaping the benefits of immersing with your target? Are you a native English speaker? Because if you are you asking if your native language deteriorates, or if English is like your second language and Japanese or whatever you're learning is your third?
I mean, also, you wrote the MIA approach. Think about that. What does MIA stand for? The mass. You wrote the mass immersion approach. It's
the ATM
also,
machine.
a lot of people. Yeah, a lot of people write MIA method. Again, that's like the mass immersion, the approach method. Like, let's think about that a little bit, guys. But anyway, yeah. So it depends on how much you're doing every day. Like, if you're spending 2 hours to 4 hours a day studying your target language, realistically, that's not going to have any impact on your native language. If you're spending 10 plus hours a day on your target language and you're almost not using your native language at all, then yeah, of course, that's going to impact your native language negatively in the short term. But I wouldn't really worry about that, because if you think about it in the long term, right? Let's say you spend 2 years dedicating all of your time to your target language, you reach a really high comfortable level. After that, you kind of tone it down a little bit. You start spending half of your time in your target language, half your time in your native language. In that scenario, you're going to get your native language skills back up to where they were previously within probably a month or two. So realistically, it's not really an issue if you think about it that way.
All right, guys, probably end for now, but I might stream later. So if you're still here, then feel free to join again. But I pretty much appreciate your time as usual. I'll be here tomorrow for sure, maybe later today. But let me know if you have any questions. I'll talk to you guys later.